We are living in an era full of paradoxes, where brilliant material prosperity often goes hand in hand with an utter poverty of existential meaning. Have you ever woken up in the middle of a life where every piece of the puzzle seems to be in the right place, according to social standards, a stable career, tangible achievements, or warm recognition from those around you? And yet, right in the middle of that perfect backdrop, a strange feeling creeps into your mind. You feel like a stranger, struggling to play the lead role in a script that does not belong to you. Is there ever a time, right in the middle of a crowd chanting your name, when a chilling loneliness surrounds you, creating a void that no fame or comfort can fill? That very emptiness is where Carl Jung, one of the great, this forgetfulness is by no means harmless. For when the interior is left open, another force, silent but powerful, takes control. It quietly stands behind the curtain of consciousness, pulling the strings of your choices, nurturing invisible fears, and creating cycles of failure that you cannot explain. Ask yourself, why do you always fall into the same type of hurtful love? Or why, at the very moment you are about to reach the peak, do you unconsciously destroy everything with your own hands? The truth is, it's not bad luck. It is the echo of a soul that is severely disconnected from itself. Our journey today is not a dry academic lecture. It is a true map for you to bravely explore the wild lands of your inner world. We will not look for cheap, instant solutions or temporary sedatives. Instead, together with Jung, we will decode the deepest secrets, diving from the calm surface of the daily ego to reach the dark depths. To understand ourselves, let us begin with a humble truth. Everything you know about yourself, all the beliefs or logical thoughts you hold, is actually just a tiny island rising in the middle of the vast ocean of the mind. Carl Jung viewed the mind not as a single solid block, but as a multi-layered structure with depths we rarely dare to touch. The first layer, where the sunlight of awareness shines most clearly, is the ego, the I that you still believe is your entire kingdom. And yet, instead of a king sitting on a still throne, imagine the ego as a lonely captain on a narrow ship. This captain always craves control. He believes that every turn of the wheel is his own free choice. But the reality is harsher than that, for his ship is always powerfully affected by fierce undercurrents surging right beneath the hull without him even knowing. Just beneath that shell of awareness, only a thin layer of water away from sobriety, lies the personal unconscious. This is a shallow water full of sharp coral reefs, the home of forgotten memories, unhealed childhood traumas, and hidden desires forced by society to be suppressed to the bottom. Every time you feel an unprovoked outburst of anger or a deep sadness for no apparent reason, that is when the ghosts from the shipwreck. And yet, our journey does not stop there. If you are brave enough to dive even deeper, escaping the seas of your own individuality, you will face an overwhelming truth: the collective unconscious. This is no longer a body of water belonging only to you, but a dark, boundless ocean containing the entire spiritual heritage of humanity. It is the repository of ancestral instincts shaped millions of years ago when humans first began their steps into the world of awareness. In this ocean, archetypes, the eternal energy patterns of humanity, move silently like giant creatures in the deep sea. Right here, you will realize that you are never alone in your pain or fear. What you are going through, from the fear of death to the intense longing for love, are the same vibrations our ancestors tasted at the dawn of humanity. When the captain ego learns to let go of pride, to listen to the whispers from the ocean instead of resisting it, he will find ancient treasures of wisdom to overcome every modern storm. However, this ocean of the unconscious is never a still body of water. It is always full of uninvited guests trying to climb onto your ship to demand attention. The first entity you face every morning in the mirror, and the second entity you hide in terror in the hold, and this is one of the most dramatic parts of the journey to explore the soul. After understanding the vast ocean of the unconscious, it is time for us to face the characters who are truly running your life. Look at your daily life. At home, you are the filial child. At work, you are the diligent employee who always says yes. Or in a group, you are the powerful boss who always remains calm. Jung calls all these roles the persona, a term that originally meant the actor's mask in ancient Latin. He believed that the persona is an essential psychological tool, a uniform that helps us communicate, adapt, and exist in society without causing direct conflict. And yet, this is also where the most subtle trap is set. When you start to depend too much on this mask, when you start to believe that you are that role, you will gradually lose your true identity. You begin to live an empty life because every true emotion, every unique edge has been suffocated to serve a perfect image before the public. Right while you're preoccupied with polishing that brilliant mask, in the darkest corner of the soul, another entity is quietly growing: the shadow. It is the repository of everything you refuse to admit about yourself, from anger and selfishness to desires considered evil. It even hides the natural talents you accidentally buried just because they did not fit the expectations of family or society. There is a constant psychological law that Jung wants you to pay special attention to. The more a person tries to appear good in an extreme way on the surface, the more dangerous their shadow becomes. When denied resolutely, the shadow will build up pressure like a pressure cooker and begin to fire back through the mechanism of projection. You start to see your own bad traits in others. You hate them extremely, but in reality, you are only hating the abandoned part of yourself screaming in your own dark hold. But Jung did not leave us in despair. Jung believed that in that psychological waste we throw away, there actually lies the most primal source of life energy. Observe how it transforms. If you dare to integrate suppressed anger, you do not become a villain. On the contrary, you gain the decisiveness to set boundaries for yourself. Similarly, if you integrate the part of selfishness you once denied, you will learn how to take care of yourself instead of being exhausted by trying to please everyone. When you dare to accept the truth that I also have a devilish part inside, you will find yourself no longer pulled or dominated by it. Do not try to force yourself to be a fake angel. Dare to become a whole person, a harmonious entity of light and shadow. Because only when you dare to face the monster in the mirror will you truly find the greatest treasure of your life. When you dare to light a torch and descend into the dark basement to face your shadow, you will realize an even more shocking truth. Those figures in the night are not accidental. They are molded from ancient scripts that all of humanity has written over millions of years. Why are you always attracted to a certain type of lover? Why does the toughness of a man hide a gentle calling, and the softness of a woman hold a burning strength? That is when we touch the world of Anima, Animus, and the eternal archetypes. Jung believed that within each individual, behind the mask of biological gender, there exists a duality of soul. Within every man, there is always a hidden feminine voice called the Anima, and within every woman is a masculine strength called the Animus. These are not merely gender characteristics, but a collection of opposing psychological qualities. The harmonious balance between these two factors is the golden key that opens the door to maturity and wholeness. But what happens if we are not aware of their existence? The answer often lies in the storms within your own romantic relationships. Have you ever wondered, why do I love the person I love? Jung explained that we often fall in love when the other person projects exactly the image of the anima or animus that is being abandoned or suppressed within us. In fact, we do not love their true self. We are longing for the soul fragment that we feel is missing. Therefore, to have a lasting and true love, you must learn to reconcile with the opposite soul within yourself first before looking for it in the outside world. If the anima and animus are individual connection strings, Then, deeper down in the abyss of the unconscious are the archetypes. You need to understand that these universal blueprints do not lie on dry theoretical pages. They are living and breathing in your every action, your every breath. They are ancient guests borrowing your body to reenact the plays of humanity. Look at the hero archetype. It gives you extraordinary strength to overcome adversity and conquer peaks. And yet, if awareness is lacking, you easily fall into becoming an arrogant person, always seeing life as a fierce battlefield where you must win at all costs. On another extreme, observe the Great Mother archetype. This is the energy of nurturing, protecting, and unconditional love. But its dark side is the devouring mother, where excessive protection accidentally becomes a chain, preventing the child's soul from ever growing and standing on its own 2 feet. At this point, stop for a moment and question yourself. Are you truly living your own life? Or are you accidentally reenacting an ancient script? Do you act out of true desire or because some archetype in you is demanding recognition? Recognizing these archetypal guests in the mind helps you no longer be a puppet pulled by instinct. Once aware of the role, you begin to have a choice to continue playing the assigned role or to start writing a unique script of your own. If our lives are being pulled by great scripts and opposing soul callings like that, can we ever truly achieve freedom? Or will we forever be actors reenacting old tragedies? The answer lies in a process Jung called the masterpiece of a person's life. That is when you no longer let the fragments control you, but begin to gather them to create a unique whole. Let us enter the most important journey, the journey of individuation, the place where you truly become yourself. The final and highest destination in Carl Jung's entire psychological system is individuation. This is not a distant academic term, but a life process where you decide to shed borrowed shells to become a unique individual, the most authentic and complete version of yourself. To visualize more easily, imagine your soul currently like a shattered stained glass window. Each of those fragments is lying in different places. One piece named consciousness, one piece buried deep in the dark hold of the shadow, and other pieces taking the shape of ancient archetypes. The journey of individuation is the act of bravely walking to pick up and gather all those fragments together. The important thing is, you are not allowed to throw away any part, even the sharpest and darkest ones. Instead, you will assemble them meticulously around a new center, a nucleus more powerful than the tiny ego, which is the self. However, there's a truth we need to clarify. Many people mistakenly think the goal of life is to reach perfection. But Jung teaches us that individuation is not perfection, but wholeness. Perfection is when you try to trim away ugly parts to become a flawless but fake model. Wholeness is when you accept both scars, selfishness, fear, and compassion into the sacred temple of your soul. A whole person is someone who dares to stand tall and admit that I have light, but I also have shadow, and both make me who I am. This arduous journey, though full of challenges, because it requires you to face what you have been running away from your whole life, is the only way to escape the emptiness of human existence. When you truly begin this process, a strange sense of freedom will occupy your mind. You will find yourself no longer having to struggle, no longer having to act, or try to meet the tiring expectations of the outside world. You no longer need the recognition of the crowd to see your value. That freedom is like taking off a heavy suit of armor after many years of fighting. You begin to breathe with your own rhythm, speak with your own voice, and love with your own honest heart. You are no longer a faulty copy of society, but officially become a unique masterpiece of creation. But do not mistakenly think that the journey of individuation is an act of selfishness or isolation. When an individual finds the complete self, they not only save themselves, but also become a solid fulcrum in the middle of a staggering world. Why is your awakening the only medicine for a society full of manipulation and fear? We will decode Jung's final warning about the fate and mission of each of us in this era. Why must we bravely explore the unconscious right now? The answer lies in a cruel reality we face every day. A sick society is actually just the inevitable result of individuals who cannot be themselves, those who have not completed the process of individuation. You see, when you do not understand and master the shadow part within, you unintentionally become easy prey for sophisticated social media algorithms and dirty media campaigns. We begin to project our darkest parts onto different people, onto opposing groups. We name it justice to eliminate them. And yet, what is the truth? It is merely a violent outburst of an unlit unconscious. Most of us are living in a kind of fate written by the ghosts of the past, by unhealed wounds and peer pressure from the virtual world. But remember Jung's invaluable advice: do not let your life become a play staged by anyone else. When you awaken, when you make the unconscious conscious, you not only change your life, but you are also silently contributing to healing a decaying society. This journey does not end here. It has only truly begun in your mind. In a world full of noise and mixed up true and false values, consider awakened wisdom as a quiet temple, a sanctuary for your soul, the place where the ancient truths of the sages meet the powerful awakening of the modern human. Do not walk alone on this path through the deep mountains. If you feel these words touch a corner of your heart, press like, subscribe, and share this torch with those who are also diligently looking for their lost souls. The journey to become the whole self is still very long. We will meet again in future videos to deeper dissect the art of facing the shadow and the sacred mysteries of the Anima and Animus. Thank you for being here in this moment of awakening. You are watching Awakened Wisdom. Keep the fire within, and see you in the next chapter.